Good afternoon. Hope all is well with everyone. Happy holidays. I know the holiday season is upon us. With that said, it feels good coming off a good team victory. We found a way to drag ourselves across the finish line together, and we're going to continue working to do so. With that said, I'm all ears.
Coach, only one touchdown in the second half last week, and that's kind of been a trend where y'all get up big in the first half. Some people say it's taking your foot off the pedal. Some say you'll keep it on enough. What's the mentality when you have a big lead going into the second half?
The mentality, it remains the same. The thing that we got to make sure that we're doing is keeping our guys focused and locked in. Our players got to make sure that we're not taking anything for granted. Just because we have a lead does not equate to a victory. We have to learn to strain to finish, and we need to learn to play every play as if it's by far the most important play. And we can do a much better job of that.
Coach Mahomes had like a toss to Jerick McKinnon. He took off, and I think that's probably going to be something that everyone talks about for a while, that touchdown. When you went back and saw that, I talked with Jerick after the game, and he said that that's something that you guys have actually practiced during camp. How many times do you actually practice plays like that that are just improvised?
You know what? Things happen. I'll say this. It's amazing because sometimes these guys can amaze you in many different ways. And obviously the play it broke down, Pat decides to scramble and make something happen. And those guys were on the same page. We always work on plays when we can extend it and guys know exactly where to go and they understand exactly where they need to be. And Pat does a great job of keeping his eyes downfield, and he just locates receivers. And their job is to make sure that they're in the right place. But on top of that, if he's throwing it to you, make the play, make it happen. And so that was just by chance, one of those things that just happened. And we see that type of stuff, unfortunately, every day. It's not anything that we take for granted, but it's just something that you find to be amazing once it happens on game day.
Eric, you've got kind of a 1-2 thing going on now at running back. You feel like that gives opposing defenses maybe more difficulty than if you were to use one guy mainly? And if so, what might that be?
It's always good to have a number of guys that can run it, but on top of that, they just give you different looks. Each guy presents something different. And obviously, Pacheco is more of a physical type runner. Jerick is more of a jack of all trades. And those guys are doing a hell of a job. And obviously, you always want to throw them something that they're not expecting. And so I think those guys have done a heck of a job. Greg Lewis is doing a great job. So whoever's number's called, they know that, hey, they need to perform. And they understand exactly what their job is, but they also understand when they're in there, they have to make the very most of that opportunity.
It's rare Patrick will throw multiple picks in a game. When he does have those games, what do you see from him the next week as he tries to sharpen and correct those things?
You know what? It's not anything different that I'm seeing. It's making sure that he's focused and locked in and not talking himself off the edge. And you got to understand, he's a very competitive kid, and he's very self-aware of the mistakes that he makes. He's very self-aware of anything that's taking place on the field, especially in those critical moments. So when something like that happens, the only thing that you can do is, hey, man, listen, it's time to move on, okay? We can't keep killing ourselves over the mistake that we made. It was just like yesterday in practice. He kept talking about a scenario that came up and how he threw it, and he knew exactly what they were doing, and he's kicking himself in the face. I said, Pat, okay, today is Wednesday. Today we play the Houston Texans. Do not worry about that, okay? The only thing that we need to make sure is that we're not putting our team in a very vulnerable state, okay? Because when something like that happens, it tends to take the wind out of everybody. So let's make sure that we're controlling the controllables. And the only thing that we can control is what we do today.
Eric, this was a big picture question. You guys had a lot of success running the ball under center down the stretch, ending the game that way. Just what are the benefits to under center running for you guys?
I think some of the benefits I know the running backs will tell you, it gives them more of an opportunity to run downhill. Gives them more of a running start. Ideally, it allows the O-line to come off and present different angles and run blocking schemes. But our gun run production has been pretty good as well. Now, that particular run I thought Pacheco made, obviously was well blocked. But the thing that stood out about it, it was the 2 or 3 missed tackles that those guys end up having because of his physical nature of attacking those guys in the back end. So I think every runner would love to line up in the home alignment 7, 8 yards deep. I know myself, I used to do that. Now I look like a big old ball back there. But those guys are doing a heck of a job when presented that opportunity to do so.
Look, you've got Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman trying to work their way back. How have they looked in practice to you?
You know what, Dave? I'll say this. Our training room has done a great job of getting those guys ready, to participate with practice, but we'll just see how it goes. And, the thing that, our training room does, they do a great job. So we're just going to go from there and see exactly what takes place.
With Isaiah, he gets pretty excited. He was obviously excited. That was a game ender, so it was just kneel down after that. But how have you had to manage his kind of excitability to make sure he's doing, the right things on the field?
You know what? That's a part of him. So he's going to play excited regardless. So after every time he touches the ball, he has this juice and this energy. And I told you before, I want that same juice after every play call. Like, yeah, I just called that play. You know what I mean? So, but he's enjoying it. And you do not want to take that from him because that's a part of who he is. He loves that. It re-energizes him for the next play. But that's something that Pacheco has within him, and we're just going to ride with it.
Last one, everyone. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.